Beautiful. Well, welcome everyone. It is Tuesday, the last Tuesday in August. Can we believe it? Summer is almost over, but I love the fall. I love a new season change. So welcome to Cando's Links to Learning. This has been a really great virtual community opportunity to learn. And I am super excited for today's session. So I'm going to introduce our guest speaker in a moment, but there will just kind of a couple of housekeeping items. There will be opportunity for any questions, dialogue, comments after today's workshop. I know Holly has a lot of good information she's going to share with us. So any questions that you might have along the way, feel free to write them in the chat box. I absolutely will make note of them. But we are really excited for today's presentation. Before we get started, I think it's really important to acknowledge the land in which you are joining us from. So I am in Treaty 6 territory, Emiskochiwaskagan, Edmonton. I give thanks for those who've walked before me. I really stand here on the shoulders of those who have walked before me, and the ancestors and the knowledge keepers and the elders. So just taking a moment just to acknowledge the land in which you live on and that you call home today. And of course, how can we forget Creator? We give thanks to the Creator for the gift of another day, a gift to learn, to grow, to listen, to take in these ideas from community. We're looking forward to hearing what you have to do. Maybe there's some ideas that are brewing for a business in your heart and in your mind. We'd love to hear all about that. So thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Our guest speaker is Holly Atjecoutay. And my apologies if I didn't say that properly, but we're really honored that you are here, that you've carved out a bit of your time to spend with us. You know, in the last year, and even prior to that, but I've really noticed in the last year, Indigenous business and entrepreneurship has really grown. And so I think that today's presentation is really timely, really important. You might have a little idea, a little passion that you maybe want to grow into a business. This is the workshop for you. So today's workshop is Startup Steps. If you have an idea or considering starting your own business, pay attention today. This workshop, you will discover if entrepreneurship is right for you and show you how to take your idea and make it a reality. Holly will help you to assess whether your idea is viable, as well as provide you with the tools, resources, and guidance to help you along the way. You will learn the steps you need to take to start your business, including choosing the right structure for your business. So super good stuff. So a little bit about our guest speaker. She is Cree and Saulteaux from the Cowessess First Nation and Treaty 4 Saskatchewan. Woo to Saskatchewan. But she calls Treaty 7 Calgary her home. She's the Director for Indigenous Services at Business Link. She relies heavily on her fabulous team to provide assistance to Indigenous entrepreneurs in Alberta regarding the startup and expansion of their small businesses, connecting them to helpful resources while providing guidance, tools, and expertise. The Indigenous Service team facilitates workshop, hosts Indigenous-focused events, provides specific programming for Indigenous entrepreneurs and small businesses, and builds meaningful relationships in both rural and urban Indigenous communities. So this powerhouse, this fire, she guides the team to success, maintains important relationships and collaboration with partners, and ensures that every First Nations and Métis community in Alberta are aware of the services that are offered. So we're so excited. I'm excited that you are here to talk about business. So I'm passing over this virtual mic to Holly.
Thank you so much, Michelle. And I can see why you have such a great online following with Cando. You have such an amazing energy, and I just want to come to all of Cando's workshops now because of you. So that's wonderful. Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for being here. I'm really excited about this. I'm going to give you as much information as possible. I don't know what just happened, but I can, okay, there we go. I'm all good. We're going to talk about startup steps, and I will caveat this by saying that BusinessLink is a Alberta-based organization, but all of these real foundational startup steps are across the board in each of the provinces and territories that you may be joining from. So without further ado, let's get started. First and foremost, we'd like to also acknowledge the land on which we reside within Alberta. The province of Alberta is situated on the traditional treaty territories of Treaties 4, 6, 7, 8, and 10, ancestral homeland of diverse First Nations groups, Métis, and Indigenous people whose ancestors have walked this land since time immemorial and whose histories, languages, and cultures continue to influence our vibrant community. We pay respects to the Indigenous people of this land, past, present, and future, while recognizing their cultural heritage, beliefs, and relationship to the land on which we reside. Who we are, who I am. My name is Holly Atjecoutay. I'm the Director of Indigenous Services at BusinessLink. I've been at BusinessLink now for 5 years, almost 5 years. That's crazy. So I've worked with amazing Indigenous entrepreneurs, communities, organizations all throughout Alberta. And I will say that we are a business service center. So we actually have business service centers in each province. We're not all BusinessLink, but there is a business service center in each province. So if you do find that there is some differences, that you might want to talk to your business service center in your province or territory just to get some more advisory services, etc. We are a nonprofit organization. Everything we do is free of charge. Our only payment that we hope for is that your success as an entrepreneur, and to be there to help you throughout the way. Who we help everybody in the stage of business. If they're starting their business, if they're growing, if they're running, we're there to help you at any single stage as much as you want, and offer all the supports that we possibly can. How we do that, and Michelle has already really touched on this, is through our business advisory, business education, and business support services. So thank you to Cando for having us, because we have some really great content that we're going to be delivering for the next 4 weeks with Cando. So every Tuesday, starting today for the next 4 weeks, we will be going over a lot of content that we have at BusinessLink. And just to, I wrote them down, where are they? On the 7th next week, we're going to talk about market research. So that is where our support services come in, the secondary market research. So we will talk a lot more detail about that next week. On the 14th of September, we'll be talking more about marketing tips. So marketing your business. And then on the 21st, we're going to talk about 5 ways to finance your business. So please check out our website. All of the links are going to be included in this presentation. Reach out to us because we're there for business advisory. This is one of the pieces that we're kind of focused just in Alberta for, unfortunately. But again, your business service center in your province or territory should also have a similar service for business advisory, one-on-one support as much as you need to coach you and help you through your business. Our support services, we do provide secondary market research, which we'll talk about more, but it's incredibly important for your business. We also have an interactive business plan builder online, and I'll show you that, and you can access that at any point, regardless of where you are, as well as all of our training and support programs are all available online, and you can access those as much as you'd like. The more the merrier. We are so welcome to anybody and any Indigenous entrepreneur, small business we want to support and help. The live webinars, virtual workshops, as well as online resources. We have a lot of guides, the downloadable guides, startup financial management, marketing. We have videos, and we do host events, which you are more than welcome to come to, and regular newsletters and blogs. Very quickly here, I just want to talk about the interactive business plan builder. So this is available. This is an online tool. You fill in the blanks. You do create an account with us. There is no money exchange whatsoever. You just create this free account, and then you can use this business plan builder as often as you'd like. You can X out of it, come back to it later, save it. You can take a day to finish it. You can take a year to finish it, and we'll be there to help you along the way as well. So this is a really great tool, as we find that with starting a business, writing that business plan might not be a lot of fun for a lot of people. So we've tried to make it as simple and easy as possible. So without further ado, let's get into some learning objectives for today. So what I really, really hope for today is that you leave here understanding what 4 steps that you need to take to start a business, and then also discover 5 things that you should do to start a successful business. So getting right into the 4 steps that you need to take. Step 1 is looking at registering a business name and understanding the structure of business that you would like to register. Now, to understand and to pick the right foundation of your business, the right structure of your business, the 3 things that you want to think about first are how you will be taxed, what your liabilities may be, and how you will be paid as a business owner. So we're going to get more into these details as we go through these different structures of business. Firstly is a sole proprietorship. Now, you may have heard this term. You may have also heard the term independent contractor, or you may also have heard the term a lot, self-employed. So essentially, those 3 types of structures are all the same. The legal term is sole proprietorship. And a sole proprietorship, it essentially means you are creating a job for yourself. You usually don't have employees. And if you do, it may be because you're seasonal. So maybe you're a caterer, for example, and you need some support, some help for a couple jobs. So you bring in a contractor to come help you do a couple jobs, but they're not an employee of yours. They're just somebody that you've brought in to help support you during those particular jobs. Some advantages of sole proprietorship structure is that it is very inexpensive to set up. It is roughly around $50 to $60, depending where you go. And it is, you fill out one form called a trade name declaration form, or declaration of trade name. And this essentially means that now you have registered as a sole proprietor within the registry office. You pay your $60, and you're now in operation. It is very, in comparison to other structures, simple accounting requirements. Some of the disadvantages or limitations around a sole proprietorship is that liability piece might be really huge. So I always say, if you are going to be in more of a high risk type of business, say, for example, in the trades, or if you're working with vulnerable populations, you may want to look at a corporation as the proper structure for yourself. And the reason that I say this is because with the sole proprietorship, there is no difference between you and your business. You and your business are one entity. So if something would ever happen where you were doing a job or doing business, and say your client or an accident happened or anything like that, you as an individual would be liable for whatever happened there. So there is, when it comes to your assets, they're not protected. Your own personal assets are not protected when you're a sole proprietor. There's also an issue when it comes to tax. So with tax, $30,000 is kind of your magic number. If you make less than $30,000, you do not have to pay GST. Or charge GST to your client. If you make over $30,000, that's your indicator point that you have to start charging GST to your client. So that's can be seen as a disadvantage, a limitation, or an advantage, depending how you look at it. But it's just something that you have to be really aware of when setting up this type of structure of business. You usually don't have partners involved when you're a sole proprietor. You've created a job for yourself. You might need some support every, once in a while, but usually it's yourself and you operating as a self-employed individual. It is harder to raise capital at that point. So if you wanted to go in for, say, a business loan to expand, or to buy some equipment, or buy some more inventory, etc., your chances of getting a loan approved by a bank might be a lot less when you're registered as a sole proprietor. And the other piece of this is that there is no name protection. So you are operating under the name, but you don't own the name. So say myself, I wanted to start Holly's Designs. And I went in and I'm operating under that trade name, Holly's Designs. That can be anything. But that doesn't mean I own that name. That just means that I'm operating under that name. So I can go into a bank once I've registered my declaration of trade name. I can go into a bank and I can open a bank account under Holly's Designs. But there could be 10 other Holly's Designs in Calgary, or there could be 25 other Holly's Designs in all of Canada, operating under that name. So there is no name protection with a sole proprietorship. This particular structure is usually, for the most part, when entrepreneurs start businesses, this is where they start. They start with a sole proprietorship and then they kind of work their way up when they start making that $30,000. They're hovering around that amount. They want to hire staff or they want to expand. Then they start to look at other structures, particularly going toward incorporation. The next type of structure that I want to just quickly talk about is a partnership. And a partnership is really two sole proprietors coming together. So it is still the advantages and the how to set up a partnership are still the same as a sole proprietorship. It's inexpensive, about $60. It's easy to operate, simple accounting requirements. You would fill out, instead of a declaration of trade name, you fill out a declaration of partnership. Now, the limitations or the disadvantages of this is, remember, with a sole proprietor, you're liable. Anything that happens, you and your business are one entity. You file your taxes together, you do everything together. You're one entity. When you are a partnership now, there's two added into that. So it's not only yourself, now it's another person. So you are equally liable for what your partner does and vice versa. So it is a little bit, or I'll say, in my personal opinion, a lot more risky to register as a partnership versus as a sole proprietorship. Still, again, hard to raise capital to go into, get a loan, etc. And then any kind of death or disagreement would usually end the business. And I've seen some businesses try this structure and they were the best of friends or brother, sister, and it usually doesn't work out that great. So I would just, a personal opinion, be very mindful of this type of structure of business. And again, there is no name protection with a partnership. So anybody that can be operating under that name as well throughout all of Canada. So the other type of business structure, and these are the three most common types of business structures. We're just going to go over these ones in more detail, and we'll go over very, very high level the other types of business structures that you've probably heard of. So lastly, here is the corporation. The corporation is the most expensive to set up. It's about $500 when you incorporate in the province. So if you incorporate in your province, that means that now you own that name in the province that you have your business. That's provincial incorporation. If you register a federal corporation, what happens then is, number one, it's more expensive. It's roughly about $800 to do that. But also, you have full name protection across Canada. So say now I decided I'm going to open Holly's Designs Limited. And Holly's Designs Limited is, I've registered in the province of Alberta. There could be Holly's Designs Limited registered in Saskatchewan. There could be another one registered in BC. And so you only own the name within Alberta. If you're deciding, hey, I want to open a franchise, or I want to go across borders, I want to open offices all over the place, you want to look at registering a federal incorporation, because then you own everything, you own the name across the board, and it'll be simpler when the time comes that you're going to expand. There is quite a few more forms to fill out with an incorporation. They're all listed here: articles of incorporation, notice of address, and notice of directors. A Nunez report, so the same thing, you walk into a registry office, you say, hey, I want to incorporate. They say you have to fill out all of these forms, these 3 forms listed here, and we have to run a Nunez report. Tell me what your name is. So I'm saying, my name is Holly's Designs Limited. So what they do is they go into, and this is the Nunez report is a national or North American database. So they look at all of the names throughout North America and see if that name is already taken. And if it isn't, then you're free and clear to go ahead and register that name. If it is taken, then you're going to have to find a different name to register. So the limitations of this is that it is more expensive to set up and to operate. It can be complicated. If you have, say, 5 people that want to start a business with you and you want to own it equally amongst each of you, that is going to be very complicated to set up. So therefore, I would definitely advise get a lawyer involved to get everything done properly. If it's yourself that's just registering as the sole owner of the business, it can be a lot easier to do. So just some things to think about. One of the major advantages of this is the limited liability. So now anything happens, like we had talked about, in a sole proprietorship scenario or a partnership scenario, if something like that were to happen as a corporation, everything that you own, all of your personal assets are protected. You are protected as a person, and it's the actual entity of the business that is being, sued, for example. So these are just some things to really think about when starting the business and looking at the foundation of how you want to operate. The other piece of this is it is a lot easier to raise capital. It is a lot easier to get a business loan as a limited corporation than it is for a sole proprietor or a partnership. Just a couple things that I wanted to talk about on a corporation is that there is an annual charge to upkeep this. So I always just compare this to like registering your license plate, right? You register your license plate. If you don't register every year, then it's not valid. Same thing with your business registration. You have to pay that $75-ish per year in order to keep the name that you've registered valid. And also, if you're looking at selling off pieces of your business, so you hear about shareholders all the time. This really means that there are pieces, percentages, or shares of the business that you are selling off to investors or to partners. And the way to, usually when you register your business with those 3 different forms that you fill out, you actually indicate there how many shares your company has. So the usual is about 100 shares. You would say equaling to 100%. So say you had a partner who wanted to come in and own 20% of the business, 20 shares, then you would figure out how much you would sell those 20 shares for, and then they would own 20% of the company. So this is where things get complicated, and where I would definitely suggest getting a subject matter expert or a lawyer involved just to ensure that everything is done the right way. When registering a corporation, you heard me say Holly's Designs when I talked about my sole proprietorship, but then when I talked about maybe doing a corporation, I said Holly's Designs Limited. So we are always hearing those end words, right? Limited, INC for incorporation, LTD for limited, CORP for corporation, all ending names. And really, they all mean the same thing. It's just whatever fits well with the name of your business. So you want something, there's 3 equal parts of the name of your business. You want something distinctive, something descriptive, and then something legal. So in my case, I said Holly's Designs Limited. Holly is distinctive, Designs is descriptive, and legal is the limited piece. So you just want to keep those 3 things in mind, and then that's where the Nunez search comes in. You go in and they search it and they say, there's somebody that has that name, or no, that name's good. You can go ahead and use that one. So quickly here, I just want to go over the different types of structures that you might have heard before or that you might be interested in. So we went over sole proprietorship, partnership, and corporation. So just to reiterate here, a sole proprietor, an individual who is operating a business by themselves, self-employed. A partnership is 2 or more people that are coming in under a joint partnership agreement to carry on that business. And then the corporation is a separate and distinct legal entity created for the purposes of carrying on business. The other 3 business structures that you may have heard or you have heard and may be considering are society, nonprofit, and cooperatives. I'm not going to go into detail about those because I'm not the subject matter expert on those. We do have an amazing subject matter expert in-house at BusinessLink. If you are interested in these types of structures, please reach out to us. We'll definitely get you in touch with JJ. He's incredible and knows all the ins and out of these structures. So the other one you might have heard more recently is a B corporation, or what is the other word they use for it? It just completely slipped my mind. A social enterprise. Sorry, had to dig in deep for that one. These are essentially corporations. They are not a different legal structure whatsoever. They are still corporations, but what they do is they have a social impact tied into their business model. So what I find is that probably, and I'll say every single Indigenous entrepreneur that I've ever worked with has a social impact built into their business model. And it is definitely something that we can talk to you about and give you more information on, absolutely, but there is no difference between the structures. So you would still operate as a corporation, but you might have some advantages when it comes to being a part of some really great societies and organizations, and also might open the doors for some different types of funding as well. So keep those things in mind too when you're looking at the business structure itself. All right, so step 2 now is understanding your government regulations that are relevant to your business. And of course, keeping in mind that for everybody here today, the main government regulation that we all have in common is federal, but wherever you are situated in your location, taking into consideration your municipal and provincial regulations that might come into play. And just to give you an example of this, even within the province of Alberta, depending on where you are situated within the municipalities, Calgary and Edmonton, for example, the two major cities in Alberta, have very different regulations about some different types of businesses. So it's always based on where you are operating your business or where you will be carrying out the business. And a good example of this is, say you are a carpenter, and you are home-based business, your head office is out of home, but you're hired on for jobs. So we know that you're actually conducting the business wherever that project is taking place. So somebody in Calgary, for example, I might have to go to Airdrie, which is just outside of Calgary, a small kind of, it actually should be part of Calgary, but it's not. It's like it is its own municipality. There will be different regulations when it comes to just conducting a day job. So as in Calgary, it might be perfectly fine to go ahead and just have that continual operational business license. But in Airdrie, you might have to get a day license in order to carry out the work for just that day. So just some things to keep in mind there, and checking again with, there is actually a really great tool that is online that you can check for yourself. And I will remember this as I go and give you the name before the end of our time here together today, to go in and check for what you may need for your regulations and licenses. But they will come from all different levels of government. So municipal regulations, of course, are really focusing on, could be on the building or property. Permits you might need include land zoning, when it comes to commercial versus residence community. There may be a difference. So if you wanted to open a storefront in your neighborhood, you might not be zoned for that within your community. You might have to look at rezoning your particular area for commercial. So there is some things that you have to take into consideration there. Even something as little as parking, that might have a municipal regulation around it. If you can park on the street, if you have to, if there's certain times, etc. Also, fire and security alarm permits are pretty much governed by municipal regulations, and signage. A really good example of this is somebody had a food truck, and so they needed to have a permit from the city in order to park their food truck where they wanted to. But then they also had to get another permit for a sign, those sandwich boards that you put on the sidewalk, which was your menu. They had to get a permit specific for that. So that's very much focused on municipal as well. Some might need it, some might not. So definitely looking in and seeing what is needed for your business. Provincial regulations are some of the provincially regulated areas that we'll just look at right now are things like your food handling permit. So for us within Alberta, we would go to Alberta Health Services to get a food handling permit, and each province is regulated by their provincial government for the food handling piece, as well as alcohol and cannabis. For Alberta, it's Alberta Gaming, Liquor and Cannabis. That is the regulator there. Anything for occupational health and safety would go to your provincial government, consumer protection, as well as employment standards. So if you're looking at actually hiring on employees, which I hope you all are at some point, to make some new jobs for some great Indigenous employees, then definitely looking into what the employment standards for your particular province or territory would be. Some federal regulations, so these are the ones that apply to, well, they all apply to all of us, but these are the ones that will be the same for all of us, are anything that is for mass consumption. So any type of product, if you're looking at, for example, you're developing a new packaged food item that you want across Canada, potentially across North America, you want to have that federal regulation for that mass consumption product. Any consumer goods, as well as any examples of enforcement agencies by industry. So looking at anything coming in or out of Canada, you would look at your Border Services Agency. You would look to Health Canada. I always say the rule is anything that you would put in or on your body, looking at Health Canada, and that mass consumption piece. So people who are perhaps making vitamins, or if you're making textile from scratch, you know, those are things that you should be looking at Health Canada for guidance. I have had the question, well, I'm a teacher, I make t-shirts, I design t-shirts. Usually what happens there is we would buy bulk of an already produced t-shirt garment and then silk screen or put our logo on it to make it unique and our own. So that's where that you wouldn't have to go to Health Canada to regulate those already made t-shirts. But if you're making them from scratch and, I don't know, making the fibers from scratch, then definitely you would have to include that. As well as food inspection, right? Anything that you're packaging, making, taking, ingesting is something that needs to be governed by the federal bodies there. All right, so we're on to step 3 now. And I'm sorry, guys, I'm zooming through this. So if you have any questions, or if you have anything that you want to add that because I always say I don't ever will never know everything. If you have examples, or you want to know more about something in particular and I'm able to answer it, absolutely interject at any point and just yell at me. I for some reason don't have the chat anymore because it's given me this weird back end Zoom PowerPoint thing going on here. So I just see like kind of a black screen with you guys kind of in the middle. So step 3, is getting your municipal business license. So you may need to have more than one if you plan to operate in more than one municipality. So here's a plumber, for example. That's interesting. I use what did I say? Carpenter. And, but it's not, it's a plumber. So if a Calgary plumber working in Airdrie might need a license for both Calgary and Airdrie. Same thing goes for a carpenter as well. But looking into where you're actually going to conduct that business before you get there, because there have been stories of, you know, somebody showing up. I'll give you an example. There was an arborist company that went in to do some work just outside of Calgary, a town outside of Calgary called Okotoks, and they realized that they had to block the sidewalk. So, you know, when you pull onto into a driveway, there's some that have a sidewalk and then the other piece of the driveway after the sidewalk. So this arborist actually had to block the sidewalk for a good portion of the day, and somebody had to come and let them know that they weren't allowed to do that. They actually had to have a permit to do that. So there are these just little nuances that you have to kind of go beforehand, kind of scope out the job and say, am I going to potentially need this? Because then that set them back, you know, quite a few days after to get the permit and actually go back and do it. Next, in step 4 is really understanding your obligations when it comes to paying taxes. So sometimes could be very different for where you're operating from and if you're status First Nations or not. These are definitely questions that there are some amazing, excellent Indigenous tax experts that if you have more questions about this, would love to refer you to them. But they will know all the ins and outs when it comes to operating on reserve versus off reserve versus when to collect GST, when not to collect GST, etc. But when it comes to just a sole proprietorship business, regardless if you're First Nations or not, that GST piece is applicable to everybody. So if you're registered as a self-employed sole proprietor or a partnership, and you have not incurred $30,000 of revenue, you do not legally have to charge GST on anything. After you make that $30,000 is when that GST comes in. It'll also really help you understand your something like your business number. So when you register your business as a sole proprietor or as an incorporation, what you can do at that point is register for a business number. And you register with your business number on CRA. So we have the CRA account that we can log into our personal account. So when you're a sole proprietor, those two things are the same, and you can just go into your personal account and register your sole proprietor, and they will give you a business number. And what that business number will do is to, number one, give you access to GST remittance. So you can now collect GST. It's optional. You don't have to, but if you want to, you can. And what that always does as well is kind of sets you up for success, because you want to make more than $30,000 a year, hopefully, but sometimes not. Sometimes you're okay with just making, less than 30,000 if it's a side hustle or that's good, but if you want to make more than 30,000, you will want to start collecting that GST, and you can then register and pay your GST through your GST remittance forms. It'll also give you this business number will also give you access to employee details and payroll details. So you're able to hire on employees through your business, through the business number. It'll also help you give you the all of the essentials that you need to import and export goods and services. So if you are wanting to go across the border or you are wanting to bring in anything, this will be the thing for you. So these are things to understand when it comes to your taxes, but also when it comes to your operational activities with your business number. With GST, I'm sorry, broken record here, but here it is on the slide. Register for GST if you exceed 30,000 in revenue per 4 quarters. In Alberta specifically, and of course this differs province to province, and then provincial sales tax also has to be taken into consideration based on where you're operating out of. But in Alberta, we need to collect 5% on taxable sales and pay this to the CRA every quarter, so every 3 months. Again, I'm a broken record, but here it is in point form. So the most common programs with the business number, again, your GST or HST, your payroll deductions if you want to hire on staff, your corporate income tax as well. So if you are a corporation, when you are a sole proprietor, you and your business do your taxes the same time. But when you are a corporation, you do your business tax, you do your taxes personally, but then you do business tax, business income tax for your business. That's where this comes into play for your corporate income tax. And again, the import, export, and any information returns as well. So if your business files any information returns, such as TFSAs or T5s, etc., this is where you would find that information. And just so we're aware here, these are all hyperlinks as well. So I'll make this available to Michelle and Elizabeth. And if anybody's interested, of course, you can have the presentation as well and just link to the clicks. Again, your CRA, this is the way in which to register. You can call if you'd like. You can call the 1-800 number, or you can apply on my CRA account. But check before you do, because sometimes you have a really, really great person at the registry office who's actually registered your business number for you when you incorporate. And that's really nice of them to do that. So if they do that, just check beforehand so you don't have to actually register. And the registration process is not difficult. It's fairly easy. It'll take, I think the last time I did it with a client, it took us 7 minutes to register. So it isn't an onerous time that takes a lot of time and effort to do. All right, for taxes, for sole proprietorship and partnership, taxes are a line item in your personal tax. So any additional income will be added there, and it is taxed at the same rate that you would normally be taxed at personally. And then for corporations, they pay a tax rate that is assigned by the government, and any money withdrawn as salary gets taxed as personal income. Again, when it comes to First Nation versus non-First Nation versus head office on reserve, off reserve, there are these things to take into consideration as well, and everybody will be individual. So definitely having a great Indigenous bookkeeper and accountant is perfect for this, because they are the subject matter experts in all of this area. Just a visual here, again, hire an accountant. Sole proprietorship and partnerships, your personal income tax, and your GST. Those are with your sole proprietorship. And then with your corporations, you have the 3 separate: your personal income tax, your sales GST, and then your corporate income tax as a separate filing. All right, so that's it. Those are the 4 things that you need to do. You absolutely need to do. If you've done those 4 things, you're a business. And now you got to think about things you should do when starting a business. So let's go over these. Step 1, know who your customers are. Please, one of the worst things that I sometimes hear business owners say is, who is your customer? Everyone. And I say, that's not possible. Or who is your customer? Women. And that's half the population of the world. So you have to get very, very specific on who your customers are. And when we go next in 2 weeks to marketing tips, we're going to really, really talk about your customers and how to pin them down perfectly so that you know how to reach them and who they are. Essential to understand who they are. The reason that your business exists is to serve these people. So you really, really need to know who they are. Number 2 is develop your value proposition, really knowing who your target market is, how you service them, how would you describe what you do in 7 seconds, what problems do you solve, and how do you make customers' lives better? So we can always look at this as like, maybe this is your elevator pitch. Maybe this is like your vision and your mission combined into one really great thing. I always say this is like the heart of your business. This is why you're there. And this is the problems that you solve for your customers. So not only knowing who they are, but knowing what are you providing to them that is going to make their lives better. And you can think of yourself as a customer, and what do you spend your money on, and what are great things that you do that that bring value to your life in the form of any products or services. So here's just a couple examples. So here's a fairly straightforward example, a bakery. But this bakery's value proposition is that they deliver authentic French bread to your door. And that is their value proposition. It's pretty cool. I think I would like that. But that is very straightforward. Another one that we really like to always highlight is Boy Chief Trading Company in Siksika Nation in Treaty 7. They are an Indigenous-owned blanket company operated out of Siksika First Nation. So we know Pendleton, Woolen Mills, etc. And those are really great, amazing woolen blankets that have been around for over a century, right? But Boy Chief said, hey, we want these to be Indigenous made and Indigenous designed, and we're going to do that. And that is their value proposition. They have made an incredible business out of it. And they are also, not just that, they do a lot of really great other retail spaces and commissioned work, etc. So if you're ever in Siksika, check them out because you will not be disappointed. So step 2 is business plan. And as I mentioned earlier, we have a really, really great tool, our interactive business plan builder online. But also at the end of this presentation, you will see links to our webpage, our Indigenous Services at Business Link. And we have, so this is our hard copy. This is a business planning workbook, a hard copy of it. You can download this in a PDF form as well. And this, we actually run a series workshop. We're going to start in October. October 5th is our first day. So check out our website and you can register. It's twice a week for 3 weeks. And we go through this entire book. And at the end of our workshops, you can then go to our interactive business plan builder and input everything you just did within that book and hit next, and you got a complete business plan. Because honestly, working with entrepreneurs for 5 years, this is one of the hardest parts, is this business planning. And I get it. And it's not fun by any stretch of the means, unless you think it's fun, which there's a few people, but this is your roadmap to your success. This is your foundation for your business. I always say, yes, you need a business plan. Even if it's a very small one, you need it. And average 7 pages to 150 pages based on what type of business you're running. So it's always a really great thing to have and a good thing to work on. And the thing with this is I want you always to remember that it's a living document. It changes. It's your business changes, your business plan will change. And your business is not just going to stay the same forever. Therefore, your business plan will change with it. So definitely look at that as your business planning is your foundational action plan. It is also for funders and investors. If you are looking to get some funding or some capital or to sell pieces of your business in those shares, your business plan is a great piece for that. It's also good to look at, like, is this a good idea? Should I incorporate something else into my business? Should I expand? Should I go to another province? Should I open a completely different business? This is a great way to test that feasibility. And again, your roadmap, your foundation. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we've got 7 basic pieces of the business plan. There can be 9. You may see 9 somewhere. There's 9 pieces of a business plan or 9 sections. But those are also including your table of contents and your appendices, which aren't exactly sections, but they're very important to have in there. So these are just your basic components of your business plans. You have your executive summary, business description, your market research, which we'll talk about next week, marketing, which we'll talk about the week after, management and team, operations, and financials, which we'll talk about on the last week. So these are really great pieces of the business plan that you need there. You can use some great tools, not just what we've discussed, but others. One of my favorite tools is called the Business Model Canvas. They've also been changed into the Lean Canvas. Someone has developed a Lean Canvas, which is even more leaner than a Business Model Canvas. There's something called a Value Proposition Canvas. There's pitch decks and project plans, and of course the business plan document itself. But the Business Model Canvas is so great. This is the actual business model canvas, and we will talk about this a little bit more as we go as well. But definitely check out Strategizer. At the bottom there is their logo. They're just a great company that said business planning doesn't work for a lot of people. It's not a lot of fun. Let's make it as easy as possible. And this is meant to be in point form. So you just point it out and you just do the high level stuff, like the stuff that you really need in order to operate your business. Look on YouTube. They have some great videos. It's open source material, and it is life-changing, I think, for business owners. So definitely look at this before you even start thinking about the business plan, just to kind of get a good idea. And just to mention, we do offer overviews and incorporate the business model canvas in our Indigenous business plan, Indigenous business planning workbook training. It's a mouthful. I always get it wrong. Okay, next, step 3, do your market research. Not going to go into too much detail here because we're going to talk about this a lot next week, but this helps you understand who you are, who your value proposition, what your value proposition is, who your customers are, what makes them tick, what makes them buy, what are their problems, what issues do they have, how are you going to solve them, how are you going to make their life better. Helps you make better business decisions. Should I open online? Should I open a storefront? Should I do delivery? Should I, list goes on. So it'll give you very great ways to validate your business assumptions and make better business decisions. There's 2 different types, your primary and your secondary. And definitely check out, we have some great online videos as well that will talk more about market research, talk about your industry, your competition, your target market. The next step is have a financial plan. Know what your startup costs are. You don't have to have so much money for everything. I have seen people start businesses with nothing, with literally just their knowledge and just what they had at their disposal. So what are your startup costs? How are you going to fund your new business? But do you need to fund your new business? You don't always need to. Create cash flow forecasts. Things like this tool, as well as others that we have online, as well as many of our other partners out there, Futurepreneur, Community Futures, Treaty 7. There's a lot of great partners out there that have some wonderful cash flow forecasts that you can utilize and start to look at. Don't be afraid of the financials piece. There are great people that will help you along the way and help you understand that. And then also looking at what type of software would work. Do you need a bookkeeper to keep you on track? Some costs that to look at: business setup. Do you need to budget for legal, for that lawyer that I keep talking about, or those accountants that I keep talking about? Location costs. Do you need insurance? Probably. Marketing, what costs associated with that? And do you need equipment and supplies? So just budgeting for all of those and keeping in mind with cash flow. Next, just some ideas of financing your business. We're going to go more here as well, but definitely some personal contributions. You can look at savings, RRSPs, personal line of credit, as well as credit cards. I'm not going to say that I agree with funding your business that way. Very, very costly, but it's always, it is an option. Overdrafts, etc., friends and family. But there are grant fund contributions that might be available to you both provincially, federally, and municipally, depending where you are. And again, we can support with that too and try to find something that would be relevant to you and your business and your location. Economic development agencies. I know we have somebody from Saskatchewan here, as well as Maple Creek, that would be probably have a really great handle on what would be available for residents around their general area. Some financing includes things like investors, loans, banks, credit unions, leasing companies, specialized lenders, etc. So you have these kind of options at your disposal. You're in the middle financing your business. You're looking at personal money, grants, and financing. But you can also think of things like pitch competitions, angel investors, etc. So there's always a lot of great things at your disposal as well that we can look at. Looking at how much money is coming in and how much money is going out, of course, is important, as well as your GST. And we always recommend that you set aside a percentage of your earnings for taxes. You never want to get that big tax bill at the end of the year. And then lastly, build your skills or team. You will not be equally skilled in all areas. Do a SWOT, which is your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Know what you're good at and know what you're not good at, and that's okay. Nobody's good at everything, and nobody should be good at everything, and that's why there's amazing people out there who can do it for us. So definitely doing those SWOTs is really, really important. Questions to consider yourself: should I be doing this? What is my skills gap? Can I hire for those gaps? Can I bring on people to my team to really work with me? Can I train and learn from my gaps? And could I build a business model where those gaps don't matter? Lastly, I will say register. Hopefully you come back to Cando and I can see you again. and we can continue these conversations. Reach out to us as well. Look on our website. We've got some great resources. This is a couple, so we do have a couple of Facebook pages. We have Indigenous Services Facebook page. So if you just type in Indigenous Services, as well as a group, you can interact with the group, and there's a lot of, I think we're up to over 1,300 members of the group. And they're not just Alberta based, they're all across Canada now, which I'm really excited about. And also, of course, our website. So if you just go businesslink.ca and peruse around, there's a lot of really great information. I've just put a couple of our contacts here. So this is myself. Feel free to reach out. This is my cell phone number. I love text messages. So if you want to text me, just let me know your name and I'll remember you. As well as April Massey. She's one of our Indigenous business strategists in Alberta. And she's wonderful and full of knowledge as well, and would love to connect with you in any way we can. Lastly, this is just a little bit of our info, our 1-800 number. You can email us anytime, indigenouservices@businesslink.ca. Sign up for our newsletter, and that's it. So thank you so much for joining. I know that was a lot of info in a very short amount of time. So I'm here as long as you need me if you have any questions.
Oh, wow, Holly, that was like great. You have covered, kudos to you. You covered a lot of ground in the short amount of time. What I appreciated for me was listening to the business plan is a living document. So I'm going to commit to the next, quarter to just revisit my business plan and see how I can, make some improvements, some adjustments, and just bring me back to why I started the business in the first place. So really good content, really good reminders. We have a comment. Oh, we have a thank you, Holly, from JC. I'll say we have a couple of minutes. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Jillian says, great information and tools. I agree. There's lots of resources, lots of tools that you provided this afternoon. So thank you for that comment. I am so excited that, the Business Link will be back with us for the next 3 weeks talking about marketing. I think it was marketing research and then marketing. And I don't know what the fourth one was.
5 tips to finance your business.
Yeah, so important too. So if this interests you, please come back, join us. I think this is just the beginning. You provided a lot of foundational steps to start a business, really good information. And we have another thank you from Ken and Laverne. So I see no questions at the moment. I'll pause just in case there are. Awesome. Like you covered.
Thank you, Jillian, Elizabeth, Ken, Cree, JC, Melissa, and of course, Michelle and Laverne. You guys were wonderful. And I'm so looking forward to seeing you next week. I really hope that you all come back and tell your friends, and let's just start some amazing businesses. For me personally, what makes me tick is that to build strong economies throughout Indigenous Canada that we can support. And I always, although we are Alberta based, right, I always say it's hard for us Indigenous to really recognize those borders because we don't live strictly within those borders and our families go across those borders. So I'm always open and welcome to anybody who needs our support, and we'll never turn anyone away. So please reach out to us, and we're more than happy to help in any way we can.
Amazing. So it was an honor to have you join us this afternoon. For all of you, thank you so much for being part of this beautiful virtual community that we have created here at Cando. As you go on for the rest of your day, may you walk in safety and wellness, and may you just appreciate and see the beauty. Some days we have those hard days, so we've got to really look for that beauty around us. So just take a moment and take in all that beauty that Creator has surrounded you with. Have a good day, everyone. Peace.